Steelers Nation, welcome back to another edition of the Pittsburgh Steelers Syndicate. Training camp's open here on Wednesday, and we're getting in the mindset of how can the Pittsburgh Steelers win the Super Bowl. Today we're going to be addressing the second thing that the Pittsburgh Steelers need to do, improve upon from last year to this year to win the Super Bowl. And that is yards per play on both sides of the ball. So yesterday we broke down the rhythm, not getting the first down. And we talked a lot about the problem of having 8 men in the box and running into it, and how that makes it harder to get a first down. And how, as a result, it just wasn't working. We had so many 3 and outs. Well, as a result of all of that, kind of stems out of the yards per play. If you have more explosive plays, your yards per play goes up. And the reason these are 2 different categories is because you can have a couple big fireworks explosions and a lot of nothing. Yesterday was addressing the run-of-the-mill play. This is addressing the explosives. How can we add these to the offense and make things better and more unique? Well, as you guys are seeing on the channel here, we're doing every single pass play that went longer than 10 yards, as well as every single rushing play that went longer than 6 yards. And one of the big trends that we're seeing here is those players that are fighting for the extra yardage, Najee, Warren, Muth, Pickens, are consistently going and giving better results. George Pickens last year, based upon every metric, caught 10% more passes than he should have, based upon the quality of the ball being thrown his way. He is less than 5 receivers since this information metric began, which ironically is like in 01 when this began, that's ever done that. George Pickens is on an incredible rate of bringing the ball in. People on that list are Randy Moss, by the way. So to be able to do this, to put himself in a category of Randy Moss and Devontae Adams, is where Pickens is at in his quality of bringing the ball in. When Pickens gets the ball thrown to him, he is downfield. He is making a difference. Now, part of this is they didn't really let him run an advanced route tree, so he was just basically running downfield. But if you kept the depth of his routes and then you evolve them, so for instance, you can run a slant 2 yards off the line of scrimmage and cut, or you can run 10 yards down the line of scrimmage and cut. The ball is in your court as far as when you do your cut. There is no reason to say he couldn't have his breaking point being past the line of scrimmage every single play. And as we mentioned in yesterday's episode, if you extend Kenny's air yards per pass above 11, that's the only true difference between the Cowboys offense and the Steelers in terms of the base metrics. And getting Pickens downfield in space will happen as a result of pushing him and running different routes. Also requires more and more diversity of play calling. He can't always be on the right sideline basically at the numbers. It's too easy to defend. And as we look at expanding Pickens' horizons, he is probably the best key from the knowns that we have on this roster to get there. But we also have the great speedster that everyone has their optimistic hopes in Calvin Austin. And we've shown that this offense can work without diversity. Pickens last year just basically ran a straight line as far as he could. Austin can do the same thing, but is faster. And the reason I'm bringing this up is if you run a basic offensive set with 2 posts going down the field, you open up the center of the field and the intermediate routes dramatically. You have to be comfortable in throwing the ball into those ranges. Kenny was. If you look at Freiermuth's tape, it's almost all that. Between 10, 20 yards downfield, middle of the field, Freiermuth making stuff happen. The issue is there's not enough attempts into that region of the field because it's covered. Kenny was very adverse to throwing interceptions last year. He was very smart with the football, which is good for him. It's great for him, actually. But if we're going to expend it, we have to allow Kenny to make mistakes as long as they are aggressive downfield mistakes. On the other note that we need to make here is when we're talking about yards per play, we always have to look at the negative plays that can hold this team back. Najee Harris is one of the absolute best running backs in the NFL of not getting tackled for a loss. Most people won't think of that, but it's a fact. He's in the top 5 in the NFL of not getting tackled for a loss. Kenny is one of the best quarterbacks in scrambling and knowing when to get out of the pocket. It's really, really uncanny that a rookie was able to do that. It's incredible because he doesn't do it with happy feet. He runs when appropriately, which is a further reason to keep all of the receivers downfield. Because Kenny is able to get out of the pocket, unlike Ben who couldn't. I'm talking about end of the year Ben. He doesn't need to have a check down. And if all of the receivers go downfield, you can make plays happen. I mean, this is what we did with Duck, and it works. So you do with talent, a more talented quarterback, he can sneak out and get first downs repeatedly. He did it all last season. The thing is, you have to have trust in Kenny to make his decisions. And will we do that this year to allow him to push the ball downfield? To me, is the biggest question of the offense's yards per game. Now let's jump into the defense's problems with yard per game and what they've done about this. Those 2 games against Philly and Buffalo destroyed our numbers. There's no way around that. However, there's more to the defense than just 2 games. The average run-of-the-mill play that the Steelers had was essentially an all-or-nothing type scenario. The Steelers were good in the sense that they didn't give first downs away with stupid penalties. They were very good compared to the rest of the league in that. But they were allowing them on the field, you can make an argument, due to the lack of handsiness. You know, there are times that you can get away with a penalty that the Steelers really didn't try that much. And we look at what we did this year compared to last year. It's a different secondary. Essentially speaking, especially at the cornerback position, it's different. Sutton's not here. Spoon's not here anymore. And we brought in Peterson and Porter. Massively big human beings. Rangy. Again, the problem fear with them is, especially with Porter, is he going to be grabby? And is he going to be a flag machine to give teams first downs away? Because giving a free first down, if you only let 3 yards up per play, doesn't matter if we can throw at a guy and get an automatic defensive holding and move the sticks. So the Steelers have put themselves in a position where the over-the-top explosive pass play is going to be much harder to come by. Last year, as good as Sutton was, he physically didn't have the tools to cover Cincinnati. Higgins and Chase are massive people. Beckham's back in this division. He's a big guy. So when we look at just the size of variable, we're not losing that fight anymore. Now, if you want to throw the ball over the top on the Steelers, you need to do one of those lob mortar shots that basically only Russell Wilson can throw. And when I look at our division, Lamar ain't doing that. Can Burrow? Yes. But Burrow also throws more interceptions against the Steelers than anyone else. So good for us against sacking, intercepting Burrow. That's always fun. And Watson, I don't believe he's going to be able to play football. He literally has not, and this is a fun fact for those people who want to look up Cleveland facts, he has not been good in 1,000 days. For most people, you've been retired for 1,000 days to not be good at football. And there's a reason for that. So for all the Cleveland fans out there, remember, it's been 1,000 days since your quarterback's been good. And he's quit on his team before. And no one loves ruining a quarterback better than that mistake on the leg. Good luck coming in last, guys. So anyway, back to the defense and the Pittsburgh Steelers here. The number one thing that they have done is they have built it much harder to complete an over-the-field pass on the Pittsburgh Steelers. And having healthy KZ the entire season with Minka only makes this problem harder on opposing offenses. The defense, I believe, has fixed their problem in a much more concrete way than the offense has in fixing its yards per play than last year. Offensively, I'm worried about the intellectual complexity that's going into their system. Defensively, it was about a physical matter, and they were able to fix that by changing personnel. So I believe the Steelers will not be in the bottom third of yards allowed per play at all, because they're going to be able to cover the deep pass so much better, and there will not be one play 60-plus yard touchdowns against the Pittsburgh Steelers this year. We had it happen a ton. Again, primarily against Buffalo and Philly. But that's how you stop football games. You don't allow the big explosives. You don't allow 30-plus yard plays. You make people shuck it out. Because the other part of this, which we're going to be talking about in tomorrow's episode, is the more times they have to line up under center, the more likely TJ and Highsmith are going to get them. Tomorrow's episode, Pittsburgh Steelers pass rush needs to improve and why it will.